Hello, I am Raul, and you are watching Godfather TV.
Good evening. This is Papa Emeritus from the band Ritual, and you are watching Godfather TV.
Welcome to Godfather TV with your host, Jeff Dennis, Chuck Insidious, Technical Director, Al Mead, with Walter Webb as Ozzy. Tonight's guest, Mark Zonder.
What's going on, DFW? Welcome to another episode of Godfather TV. I am your co-host, Chuck Insidious. Here's my lovely co-host, Vanna. We are here to introduce you to or expose you to all things rock and metal that DFW has to offer. We're in a top secret location here called Area 69. What? Anyway, I want to thank our production god, Mr. Al Mead, back there. And again, as always, I want to introduce the Godfather himself, Jeff Dennis.
Hello, Jeff Dennis here. Welcome to episode 12, and today we have another Zoom interview with a rock legend. His name is Mark Zonder, the drummer for Fates Warning and Warlord, among many others. So let's do this.
We're going to start with Warlord. Well, we'll start, first about your younger days before Warlord, when you actually started playing drums and how that came to be, how you ended up in Los Angeles, and then we'll start with the Warlord questions.
Well,
with that.
That's cool. I started my first drum lessons, I was 7, and I was actually born in Detroit, and we moved when I was 5 to LA. And then we moved to the Bay Area, San Jose, when I was like 9. And then I came back to LA when I was 21. So that's that little up and down and back and forth.
Right.
But no, I just was always banging on stuff with the big wooden soup spoons. And I remember like these 3 little suitcases, little plastic things in the garage and banging on them. And I honestly don't remember if my parents kind of went with it or I asked for it or whatever. But, I started having drum lessons, and I was actually on a snare drum and a practice pad till I was about 12. So there was a lot of lessons starting, and then I wouldn't practice, so they'd stop the lessons, and I'd show interest again, and then we'd start the lessons, and then I wouldn't practice. And I'll never forget the one time when I had the snare drum, and I got so pissed I jammed the sticks right through the head, top and bottom. That was the end of those lessons for a while. And it is kind of funny the way that comes full circle. And and for years I've had a deal with Remo. So if I would have had the deal back then, I could have said to my parents, "Hey, I'll put new heads on it. Don't worry about it. We got a bunch of them over here that I get from Remo." But no, it was just that thing. I played in the school bands. I remember being 7 years old or 8 years old, scared to death in this big auditorium. There was nobody in it except for the music teacher and me. And he had like the tortoiseshell glasses and the coat with the patches on the sleeve. Okay, and his name was Mr. Taxi, like a taxi cab. I'll never forget that.
Nice.
Okay, play a 5-stroke roll. Okay, play a 7-stroke roll. Like there was things that you had to do to pass, And I think that was one of the greatest things that in my era is that we had all the band stuff. Were we rocking out, smoking joints, playing Led Zeppelin? No. But if you wanted to learn an instrument and the drums, it was there. You learned it. He would teach lessons. You'd get your lessons. And then it turned into like the orchestra and the band and this thing and that thing, and just you're engulfed in it, whether it's the marching band or like the orchestra where, we were all taught how to conduct if we wanted to be the conductor, stuff like that, which I don't think they have too much of that going on these days. But that was kind of the early days, and then just jamming with buddies. I'll never, I was playing with a guitar player, and we were playing like songs by Traffic, and 90% of Traffic was piano and keyboard. Yeah. So kind of interesting. I jammed with another friend of mine who played the saxophone, and that's when the first Chicago records came out. So that was a freaking train wreck. But no, I was just always playing. I had the drum set right next to my bed. I'd roll out of the bed and fall into it. And my parents and my brothers would go to the other side of the house. I know it was loud as hell, and I was horrible. So it had to be rough. I used to jam with guys in the garage, and the police would show up because the neighbors weren't exactly digging it. But it was all cool, there's no police brutality or any of that crap, it was just, just turn it down. But no, it was your kind of, for that period, that's what kind of happened. That's how you did it. And then you run into other guys that you play with, and then it gets a little further along, and then you start playing covers, and then try to sneak in some, god awful originals that you guys wrote, and and it just kind of goes from there. That's exactly how it happened.
That's right.
Did you do? Were you in the drum corps or anything like that, Mark, in high school?
I wasn't in the drum corps. I played in the bands. The reason I wasn't, the orchestra and stuff, I wasn't in the marching band and that because I played basketball all through junior high and high school, so I wasn't available for that. But no, the orchestra thing was awesome. It was great. Snare drum and the bass drum, and it beat math.
Right?
Or PE? Did you have to take PE if you were in band?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, the only reason I went to school is for PE and recess. To be honest, I was
and lunch.
And lunch.
Right.
I was in lunch, but I was a big jock growing up. I kind of straddled that line of like, I mean, my family and my brothers and stuff are like these brainiacs and stuff. So, I'd run into these teachers that was, oh, we had your brother in class last year. I'm like, oh, my older brother? I go, no, your younger brother. Like it was, so I had that. I was totally into sports, but I was into the whole band thing. I was working at a place called Stevens Music in San Jose when I was 9 years old, and I was handing out flyers, and they would trade me a cymbal. Little did they know I walked outside and just put them all in the dumpster, but that's a different story. But while I was there, I actually jammed with a couple of guys from the Doobie Brothers because it was a music store, and these guys would come in, and then the guy behind the counter knew me, obviously because I worked there, and they would be, a couple of guys were in the, hey, Mark, go get behind the drums. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, fuck, here we go. This is going to be rough, but it was cool. It was all around at that point. I remember Pablo Cruz was in the area. The Doobie Brothers were in the area. I mean, like blocks away kind of thing, like in the neighborhood, San Jose. And, but yeah, that's just kind of the way it went.
Well, that kind of explains, last time I remember Jeff asked you if you could be in any band, what band would it be? You said the Doobie Brothers. Now I know why, because you were actually in the Doobie Brothers when you were 9.
For about 8 minutes, and I probably made 700 mistakes, and but no, it was
man.
Never saw any royalties, huh?
Never saw no royalties, eh?
I'm gonna sue. I'm like the 5th Beatle,
Right.
All right, so then I started buying these Metal Massacre albums when they first started coming out, and Brian Slagle was putting them out from Metal Blade, and Volume 2 comes out, and there's a band called Warlord on there, and I was curious about them, and they were really good. And then Metal Massacre 3 came out, and there was another Warlord track, but I couldn't find any albums, and then finally y'all put the Deliver Us album out. But I never heard about any gigs or anything. So tell me how the whole Warlord thing started, how you got on those 2 Metal Massacre albums, and why the shortage of gigs.
Yeah, well, the way it worked was I was playing in a band called Russian Roulette, and we played covers, but we were playing UFO, Thin Lizzy, the Scorpions, that kind of stuff. And we snuck in a couple of horrible originals. And the singer's girlfriend supposedly knew this guy from one of these bookstores, which was Bill. And Bill definitely stood out back then. Bill looked like he could have played in the Scorpions back then. He had the Capizios and the really tight jeans and the red and white striped shirt with the sleeves cut off and the cigarette and the sunglasses. And anyways, but he was totally into what he was doing. He was Warlord. I mean, there is no question about it. I was just kind of along for the ride. And she thought we would make a good match. And then we just started talking. We started playing. And people don't know this, but Bill and I jammed together for months. Just him and I. No bass player, no singer, no nothing. We couldn't find them. We couldn't find the people. You got to remember, it's early, late 70s, early 80s. It hadn't really popped yet. And then again, we're in San Jose. We're not in LA. You know what I mean? We're in San Jose. It's kind of like, okay. And then we moved to LA, and the real truth, and it's the bottom line, is the reason there was no gigs or anything like that, we couldn't find a singer. Jack, the singer on the first record, was a pop singer, and every line that he sang, Bill fed to him. Bill wrote it, melody line, everything. He fed it to him word at a time. There's not a singer in Warlord that had an original idea ever. Not that they didn't have original ideas that made it to the record. Bill looked at the voice as just another instrument. That's all. This is an orchestra, and your voice is just another instrument. And this is how I want it to go. I used to tell Bill, dude, if you could sing, we wouldn't need anybody else. You know what I mean? But I mean, he had amazing ideas. He made Kiss look like, a high school band. The thought and theory that he had, like, he had a whole thing where, like, each character obviously had a name, which is so funny because back then we took so much crap for it. And now if you don't have a goofy name, you're looked at as strange.
Well, you were Thunderchild, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And he was Destroyer.
He was Destroyer, Damien King, and then the different ones goes Damien King 2 and 3.
Yeah, King 3.
But Bill had a whole thing written out, like stories that albums would be done for each person, like telling the whole story and then how it came together. Kind of science fiction-y, but not really science fiction, just kind of more fantasy, I guess. But he had the whole thing, man. And it was like, Kiss at Harvard. You know what I mean? It was like, it wasn't the makeup so much and it wasn't the craziness, but he had the names, because he thought the individual, the band was more important than the individual guys per se. And I mean, he had amazing ideas, just incredible, way ahead of his time. And the only reason that we didn't play the gigs, we couldn't find the singer. Jack, here's a funny story. We did a showcase for Bill Aucoin, who was managing Kiss at the time. He's also managing Billy Idol. And the band was fine, but the singer, Jack, shows up in this black cape, massive eyeliner, in this new wave black and white striped shirt. We're all kind of going, what the fuck are you? What is that? And Bill Aucoin picked up on it in 2 minutes that the singer really didn't fit. Could he sing? Yes. Did he have a great voice? Yes. And it worked on a record, but it wasn't translating to live. And you got to remember, back then, it was all about appearance. Today anything flies. You know what I mean? I could put a turtle out there as long as he could sing, he'd be fine. No one would care. Short hair, long hair, fat, skinny. It doesn't matter. Back then, yeah, a whole different ballgame. It was almost more important the way you looked back then. So we just couldn't find a singer, and even when Rick came along, Bill pitched him every line. Kind of erratic in the singing, not consistent. And again, we just couldn't find that guy to go play. We rehearsed all the time. We rehearsed every day. We played. We had a lot of people sitting on the floor watching us play. But we just couldn't find the singer to get up and go do it like a lot of the other bands. And that's the reason we did the DVD or the video, because we knew we weren't like an LA style band. Because back then it was Rat, Motley Crue, and bands like that. We thought we were more of a European kind of thing. So we thought, okay, let's do a video that they could play, that people could see what we are. And maybe that would get attracting interest and open up the band's audience to a worldwide situation instead of just being some LA band. And that was the reasoning for that whole video, which is a whole different.
Yeah, I have that DVD. It's awesome. You got the castle going on behind you and everything. That's really,
that was shot in one take.
Yep.
Wow. One take.
And also, people don't know, Rick Cunningham is a local boy. He was from Euless, Texas, and he moved out there to become their singer. When he played here, he was in a band called Rage. If anybody remembers them. Anyway, I had to throw that in there.
Yeah, no, he was an interesting guy. I think a lot of people when they're not in LA and they come to LA, they think everybody's loaded with money and they think everything's flying, and they don't realize that it's the 1% that have the money and the 99 are struggling. Even though it looks a certain way, that first Deliver Us record was done for $800 total, 8-track, it was 2 kick drums and the bass guitar all wedged down onto 1 track. The engineer was smoking cocaine cigarettes like it was going out of style. And, I kind of naive back then. I was like, what the hell is that smell? Like, I know what weed smells like. I've been to enough concerts. I knew what that smelled like. Like, what is that? But great engineer. And I mean, he made magic out of that. And say what you want, I still think that's a classic in what it is. In what it is. Every song's brilliant. It is what it is. I think that one will stand up as time goes on.
Yeah. Child of the Damned was re-recorded by Hammerfall on one of their albums, and probably
And
some
we
other
never
bands
got,
too.
and yes, we never got royalties on that one.
Oh no,
Funny how that works, ain't it?
I know it. So was the album recorded before the Metal Massacres, or did they take the songs off Deliver Us to put on the Metal Massacre albums?
No, they were the songs were recorded afterwards.
Okay.
Honestly, I'm not sure if those two tracks went from Metal Massacre and we only recorded 5 new songs. I'm not sure. I'd have to go listen. If you listen to Metal Massacre 2, then listen to Deliver Us and listen to Lucifer's Hammer and see if it's the same.
Yeah.
I honestly, man, you're talking a long time ago. And a lot of cocaine cigarettes. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I think Miss Victoria is different than the Deliver Us version, so I think you're right. I think it was recorded different.
I think it was because, as I remember, we didn't record. I don't remember where we recorded the Metal Massacre tracks, but I remember where we recorded Deliver Us, and I don't think they were. Oh, they weren't the same place. You're right. We were over at a place called Perspective or Warner Brothers or something. Yeah, no, they're different. They're definitely different. Good point. Yeah, we went in and recorded everything, as it was.
That Brian Slagle took to y'all, and how'd that happen?
He was working at a record store called Oz Records, and Bill walked in with a demo of Winds of Thor on a cassette, and literally Brian put it in, and supposedly within 15 seconds, he said, "You guys want to be on Metal Massacre too?" It was that quick. It was that quick.
Wow.
I mean, think of the beginning of Winds of Thor, and you kind of go, "Okay, I get it. This doesn't sound like all this other crap that's going on." And it didn't even sound like the bands that were on the Metal Massacres. It didn't sound like Metallica. It didn't sound like Slayer. It didn't sound like those bands. It sounded like Warlord. That's the one thing I can say when it's all said and done. That band didn't sound like anybody but Warlord.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, Metal Massacre 1 had, Metallica on it, and Black and Blue, and Steeler, and Rat, and all the bands that were coming up at the time. Metal Massacre 2 and 3 and all them had Lizzie Borden and Slayer and Tyrant and all the other bands from LA. It was a really big deal to be on that record, and Warlord was on 2 and 3. So they were a big band back then. In case y'all didn't know, that's why we're educating you.
Right, education.
But you said some other singers auditioned for you guys over the years. Who were some of the names that came into audition for Warlord that you didn't accept?
Okay, to be clear, some audition that we loved and some that we just didn't love. Okay.
Right.
We loved Mark Bowles. Mark Bowles came in with Suspicious Minds by Elvis Presley, and it's on YouTube. Go look it up. I forgot what the name of his band was, but it was kind of a poppy little band. When he put that thing on, we all hit the floor. It was amazing. Suspicious Minds by Elvis, by Mark Bowles. But a lot of these guys were looking for money, and I understand that, or bigger opportunities, and we weren't that big of an opportunity. Love Mark Bowles. I think, but I'm not sure if Jeff Scott Soto auditioned. I'm sure if he did, we would have loved him. I mean, he was a great singer. But again, I think a lot of these guys wanted something a little bigger, or whatever the case may be, as far as that goes. But there was a million guys that was like, oh God. I mean, there's some funny stories. There's just one guy who came in. It's totally surf dude from Venice Beach, California, blonde hair. And, hey dudes, what's happening? And we play Holiday by the Scorpions.
Yeah,
nice. All of a sudden, he's got a German accent. He's starting to sing, and me and Bill are looking at each other like the dude went like full German. It was weird. There was another funny one where there's a guy, and he was a really cool guy, and he worked it, and he worked it, and he worked it, and he was working on it, coming back and forth. I mean, he really, really, really wanted the gig. And it just got to that point after about 3 weeks, me and Bill are going, this just isn't going to work out. We got to let him know. We're wasting his time. It's like this, you can just tell. We go over to his house to tell him, and you know what he does? He pulls out this gun. And he says, hey guys, check this out, man. I got this thing. This is like this really cool thing. I got it at the gun shop or whatever. And not knowing that what we were going to tell him, we were like, oh, that's really cool, man. Okay, we'll see you Thursday. We got the hell out of there. So I'll never forget, the guy pulls out the gun, and I'm looking at Bill going, I didn't say nothing to him, did you? you know. But those were the days, there was no internet. You don't text somebody back then. You didn't, it's like, yeah, it was kind of funny. But I mean, we went through I think one of the saddest and funniest, depends on what side of the fence you're on. Guy calls us up from Boston, loves our songs, blah, 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 he sounded pretty good on his tape or whatever. And I told him flat out, I go, hey, I just want to be really honest. You got to look the part. You just really got to look the part. I'm not making the rules, but you got to look the part. I don't want to waste your time. Oh no, man, I look like Peter Frampton. I'm like, well, fuck, okay, that'll work. That'll work. He didn't mention that it was Peter Frampton's dad. So what happens is the guy flies out from Boston and he gets a taxi or whatever, and he comes to our door, which is his warehouse, and we're on the second floor. We're looking out the window and we look at this guy, and it's just like, you remember back then, I don't care how good you sing. You can't, that's why they called it a front man, because you're in the front, you're fronting the band. And no, it wasn't going to happen. It wasn't going to happen, and it was sad, because the guy, went all the, I appreciated the effort, but I mean, it still is a cutthroat business, it's very, it is what it is, but, yeah, there was a lot of singers and just, and then you get the guy that was pretty good, but he looked basically, he didn't look like, but he's like a used car salesman kind of guy. And, just didn't front. But what people don't understand is, and they've kind of maybe come over it a little bit, but it's more than just the hair. It's the way you handle a microphone. It's the way you work a stage or don't work a stage. It's that. Are you going to stand up there like deers in the headlight? And there are guys out there that are awful frontmen but can sing. I mean, usually that's in the progressive world. You can get away with that a little bit more.
Right.
But in that heavy metal thing, you got Dio, you got Klaus Meine, you got Bruce Dickinson, you got Halford.
Yep.
It kind of set the table right there, and
David Lee Roth and all those other frontmen that were around back then were like, you got to be able to work a crowd for sure.
Even Jim Dandy. Remember Jim Dandy?
Jim Dandy, yeah.
Well, that's David Lee Roth, but okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was different back then. And we were very aware of it, obviously, so, but that was it.
And so what happened after the DVD and the album came out? Did things just kind of fizzle out? And
yeah, we couldn't really get anything going, really didn't have the singer situation. Bill got very, disgruntled, like, man, how much more do we have to do? We can't even keep this together as a band. We're recording other songs. That's when we're recording songs like Father and Thy Kingdom Come and these other songs on this little Fostex 4-track. And he just basically, kind of not gave up per se, but, there's always a girl or a woman that comes into the picture. And I'm not saying that it was Yoko Ono, but, Bill moved out of Warlord Manor where we all lived. It was the warehouse. We called it Warlord Manor, and then just kind of separated himself a little bit, and it all kind of went, it happened that quick, to be honest with you.
wow.
And it was just kind of done for the time.
Wow.
It was kind of tough, you put everything into it. I kind of understand it a little bit, but at the same time, it's not like we've done it for 12 years. You know what I mean?
Right.
It was a couple. I mean, we had records out. That's why I'm always amazed. People don't understand, and I've been through it a few times. I know what it's like to be rocking and rolling and a label. Are you making a shitload of money? No, but you're on a label, and then all of a sudden one day you find yourself back in the demo pool, and you're swimming around in the demo pool. And I got to tell you, as much as your ego can carry you so far, it's a bitch in the demo pool,
Right.
and I'm sure we'll bring that up later when we talk A through Z, but in the demo pool, and all of a sudden, and what's funny about it, unless you're Sting leaving the Police to go on to some glorious career, it usually doesn't have very good results for many people.
Right.
It's not a whole lot of bands that guys get the great idea of going solo that have bigger success. Now, if you don't care about success and you just want to quote Eddie Vedder and do your music and, hey, I don't care what that's one thing. But if you're, back in the day, man, you want to be bigger than life rock,
Right.
that was what it was, you're trying to compete, with Rainbow. You know what I mean? So you got your foot in the door. You're in the door. It's like now it's up to you to make that happen. And I know we were all young and so on and so forth, but nobody had any responsibilities. No one was married. No one had kids. No mortgages. I mean, we were flat ass broke. But it was kind of disappointing, honestly. It kind of went, wow, that happened pretty quick. And then you scramble, and then which in all sincerity, if you want to do half empty, half full glass kind of thing, the benefit that came out of that is I wound up playing with so many different style of bands musically. And I was only 20, how old was I? 25, 26, 27, maybe. I was young, but that was like the first taste of anything with like a label and press and stuff like that. But then all of a sudden I got out there and I was like, every day I was playing with 3 different bands. They'd rehearse in my studio. The first one was like a rock band. The second one was kind of like a funk band. And the third one was kind of like a new wave band where I learned all the electronic stuff. So for me, growth wise, I don't want to throw sand on it and say Warlord, breaking up at the time or falling apart was all bad. I mean, I wasn't on suicide watch. Nothing like that. I kind of just took advantage of the opportunity, because you have to remember too, back then, when you play in a band, it's like a boyfriend, girlfriend, or a marriage. You ain't out playing with other bands. No. You just don't do that. That was not it. You don't see the dudes in Bon Jovi jamming down the street with some other band. You know what I mean? It was more of that. It was a gang, and it was you against the world. And that was a great thing. It was like a family, and it was awesome, and it's great. But you're not out doing other things. So you're kind of in that lane right there, or the dudes in the band are starting looking at you with the cocked eye, like, well, what the fuck's going on here? Are you leaving the band? Even though I did find out later that Bill did audition for Kiss and Ozzy, and I didn't know about it, but
Oh, wow.
so it goes.
Can't blame him though, right? You can't blame him.
Oh no. Oh, I'm not blaming. But
Yeah.
at the same time, he didn't come and say, hey man, this is what I'm doing. So, hey, whatever. It is what it is. It kind of makes you who you are today. And like I said, if you look at the beneficial side of it, I definitely learned a lot and grew into what I am now as compared to what I was, kind of a one-trick pony back then. So
Right. Yeah, we'll come back to Warlord in a little bit when y'all did a reunion and all that, but we'll come back to that. Let's go to the next chapter, which is Fates Warning.
Yep.
So what was the gap? What was the gap
interesting.
between Warlord and Fates Warning, Mark? Was there
Well, what happened is during that whole time, even during Warlord, Bill Matoyer, who was doing 7,000 Metal Blade records a week, would have me come in. They would pay me to tune the drums, because a lot of the bands that they had, the guys were, they weren't that good at it. And Bill was tearing his hair out in the studio with the drum sound sound like horrible and stuff like that. So they'd bring me in, and I'd bring in a snare drummer too and stuff like that. And I did 2 of the Fates Warning records actually, and they actually rehearsed in my studio. And so we got to know them, or I got to know them, or they knew me. You know what I mean? That I wasn't some psycho pervert or whatever. And Jim was like a big Warlord fan.
nice?
So he there was really no audition. He just called me up one day and he said, hey, we're looking to make a drum change. Would you be interested? And I said, well, honestly, depends. If I'm not a real big fan of the thrashy kind of no exit style. I go, I don't think I'm the best guy for that. But if you're looking to do something else, I'm always up for it. And he said they definitely were. And part of the problem what they were having with the current drummer was they were looking to get a little bit more progressive, a little bit more kind of, they needed a different kind of drummer, whether it's me or somebody else. It just wasn't going to go anywhere. And in all fairness, they gave him a chance to work on the material, and they just thought they needed a change. And I was that change. And it seemed to work out, and I remember because my studio at the time was full. I remember being next door, and the neighbor, it's just like an industrial thing, like the neighbor's little storage bin, like with a kick drum and a snare drum and a hi-hat, like working on parts, for part of the machine and different things like that. And basically we went straight from like working on parts right into recording, to the Carriage House in Connecticut. I don't think there was rehearsal. Jim, I think at the time might have lived in LA, or we did a lot of this thing with the phone where we'd go, well, put the phone up, the phone up to the speaker. This was way before cell phones and stuff.
Right.
And we did a lot of stuff that way. As I remember, I think it was pretty much, okay, this is exactly what I'm going to play. Let's go record it. We went to the Carriage House with Max Norman and did Perfect Symmetry, and
Wow.
and there it went. And that's where it started.
You pieced it together on the phone, huh?
Oh yeah. Oh no, we used to do that. Oh my God, me and Jim used to do that all the time. I'd be in LA, even when he was across town. You'd get on the phone, dude, I'm working on this part here, and you put the phone up to the speaker, because I still had this, I had the studio, and it was like, okay, here it is. What do you think? That's the way we do it. Now obviously you just click a button and they have album quality sounds on the other end. But
so is that the way Point of View was written, kind of through the phone like that?
Parallels. Well, no, the Parallels album was different. We were stuck. We went to Toronto and everybody thought we were just going to finish up a couple songs. Well, it turned out to be 6 months. And that's where those songs were written and put together. We're in Toronto.
So you actually were in the studio writing Parallels, then did anybody come in with ideas? You just wrote the record there?
Yeah, that was basically, it was Jim's basic ideas to the songs. And I remember working on drum parts and coming up with drum parts. I think some of them we had ahead of time before we showed up, and there was kind of that thought and theory, like, oh, we've got a couple left, so let's work them out when we get there. And then that's a whole TV show in itself right there. But there was some funny, stupid, crazy stuff. But that's the way it was done. We were right next to, we recorded in Triumph Studio, Metalworks. And when we were rehearsing, Rick Emmett was next door in one of the rooms.
Wow.
So it was kind of cool. It was kind of cool.
Yeah. See, those are stories, man. That's badass. Well, that's cool, then. Those two albums, just, being a drummer specifically, and then being into the progressive type stuff, Parallels and Perfect Symmetry, just legendary albums for us fans. You know what I mean? It's just, and not to have any puns or anything, but there's nothing that parallels those drum tracks at all.
Oh, thank you.
Dude, those are Bible. Those are Bible to me. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. I appreciate it. I think part of what that is too, and you've heard the expression a million times, right place, right time.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that mesh of, and you can totally see a Perfect Symmetry to Parallels.
Right.
The way the band kind of just went here. Perfect Symmetry reminds me of like this, kind of like, okay, this is cool. And then Parallels is like that.
Right. Exactly.
Really,
exactly.
It still has those elements. It still has the playing. The production's better. That's for sure. And it's just more centered. It's more centered. There's some stuff that people ask me, well, how did you play this? I'm thinking to myself, man, it'd take me 2 weeks to figure that out. I have no idea what the hell I played on some of that Perfect Symmetry stuff. I really don't. Stuff like at Fate's Hands and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah.
Oh my God. There was no click. There was no timing. There was just kind of following the guitars around. I honestly, I think I'd probably stroke out if I had to go play something or just relearn it for a guitar player and a bass player to play to the drums that are recorded, than for a drummer to sit there and like worry about when the guitar player is going to speed up or slow down. And it just doesn't sound right. Let the drummer do his thing, and then you guys come on top and play to his energy.
Well, that's the way I've always done it. I haven't done too much studio work, but we did have one producer one time with the previous band I was with. Actually, I sent you a track from that band. It wasn't that track that we recorded, but he was a producer. He didn't even know how to do rock that well. He was like a rap R&B guy, but he wanted me to go in and play. They wanted to record the guitars and then come back and do the drums with the click. I just couldn't do it, man. That was just, I didn't understand that whole process, but.
Well, what's interesting is, it's funny you say that, because I get that experience a lot when I record stuff for people. What do they send me? They send me a guitar track, okay? And it's supposedly played to a click, and I put it on and I lock up my click and everything, and it's like all cool, it's cool. And all of a sudden the guitars start moving around, especially when you get into jigga 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 jigga. I'm hearing the click, and it's like it's drier. It's like, and I actually have to ask him. I go, you guys, do you want me to play to the click and you'll re-record your guitars? Or if these are keeper guitars, then I need to kill the click and try to play to that guitar.
Right. Man,
so,
I don't know how you do that, Mark.
No, I don't like it.
Right.
Usually say, hey, how about we do this? Let's record the drums.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool, man. I think I told you last time, I actually had
You guys just froze up.
and I was like, oh man, you're challenging me to learn a Mark Zonder song. I got maybe 85% there, but it was good enough to get the gig. So hey, there you go. You know what I mean? But that was a joy learning that song, man. And Point of View, again, one of the greatest songs written of all time in any genre of music, just my personal opinion. Just anything that you were a part of in Fates Warning, for sure, that you know what I mean, was just mind-blowing, dude, mind-blowing.
Oh, thanks. I think that my time there, I think, you know, the body of work is legendary is a big word. I'm not going to go with legendary. I'm going to go with, well, to me it was special, but it's very much bookend. It's like it's a complete kind of thing. And like, if anybody wants to go, well, how does that guy play? You can just go listen to that, and it kind of tells you what you want to know. Different songs have different things. You got the electronics. You got certain songs that have a lot of groove to it. You got songs like Monument when it gets freaking reggae in the middle.
Oh, I love Monument, man.
You know, I mean, I don't know anybody else, you know, in this genre playing cowbells and timbales.
Right.
In the groove, you know. But that's what I thought progressive music was. It was supposed to be pushing forward at all, you know, never satisfied with what you have, and just you're progressing. No, there's stuff on there. I mean, you know, you get into stuff like the 11th Hour. I mean, come on, you know, that song, you know, the 11th Hour. That's another one.
A masterpiece, man. Masterpiece drumming.
Yeah, that is.
Like, and like, you know, like you were just saying you wouldn't use the word legendary. Well, because you wrote this stuff and you were a part of creating it. But for us fans, especially drummers, just for me personally, it's legendary. You know, there's nothing like it. And like, you know, like you just said, you want to, you know, I've always strived to be like Mark Zonder. You know, everybody wants to be like Michael Jordan. I want to play just 5% of what Mark Zonder can play. You know what I mean? That's just me. You know what I mean?
Appreciate that. My kids don't even want to be like me, so that's
there's certain drums, like there's certain drummers that you identify with. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and I think I talked to you about this last time. Like Lars, he's not the most technical drummer, but I identify with his drumming. You know, from a heavy metal standpoint.
Oh, absolutely.
When it comes to technical ability and being able to write drum parts just out of the box, there's nobody like Mark Zonder to me. You know what I mean? And that's who I strive to be now in my older age. I mean, you're always going to be older than me, Mark, but I'm always striving to be Mark Zonder. So
I appreciate it. I had, when I was growing up and stuff, when I was younger, and even mid-20s, whatever, you know, there was guys that had the same thing. You know, I always wanted to play like Dave Garibaldi from Tower of Power. I knew I wouldn't be able to, but I could rip them off.
Right.
And I can take those ideas and apply it to me. You know, I always love guys like that. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Well, it's kind of hard for me to rip you off because that's like going to school, man. That's like calculus or even like statistics, playing a Mark Zonder chart. You know what I mean? That's work, man. But I would love to try and rip that off. That would be awesome.
Take the concepts and the ideas, not necessarily the part, but like, oh well, wait a minute. When it comes to the third verse, he stops for the first bar, puts a little air in there. Steal those kind of ideas. That's what I do all the time from all kinds of people and all kinds of genres of music. And you know, you can come up with some amazing stuff listening to pop music as far as how you think of your drum part. Okay, well, I have 3 verses. Well, am I going to play them all exactly the same?
Right. Really. No, I got you. But like in that song I sent you, it was called I forgot what it was called, but anyway, I think I had directed you towards the verse part. There's some Mark Zonder-ish licks that I put in there, and you even agreed with me, which was cool. You told me, yeah, I can hear it.
Yeah.
So that's the only ripped off I did from Mark Zonder. I tried to put it to, you know.
Hey, it's public domain. Public domain. Like they say, there's nothing new. It's just reinvented.
Right.
You know?
So Mark, talk about the first time you saw yourself on MTV in one of your videos, and
And you got any good stories about filming those videos and how long they took and all that stuff?
Technically, the first time I ever saw it was Warlord on VH1. That was when, I don't know if you guys remember VH1, and there's a band called Swift Kick.
Yeah, yep.
That singer, well, you know, Tracy played with Dio.
Yep.
Guitar player from Swift, but that singer, the guy with the red hair, turned out to be one of my best friends.
Oh, wow.
Joe
Cool.
Richardson. We call him Joe Bob, but yeah, Joe Bob. Great stories about Joe Bob. But the first time I ever saw it was on that, you know, on VH1 on this little rickety ass TV in the corner of this little room where I was living in this room kind of thing. The Fates Warning stuff was cool. You know, the first one obviously was Through Different Eyes. That was in the Brooklyn Naval Yard. We filmed that, and you know, it's New York, hotter than hell, humid as hell, just nasty. And I'll never forget going to take a shower right before we were going to film. By the time I got back, I was all sweaty and just a mess. And but no, it came out good. It came out good. You know, anytime you see that kind of stuff, you know, Point of View was played quite a bit. You know, and then Eye to Eye. Was on like Headbangers Ball, I guess. And I guess one time Jim and Ray were on Headbangers Ball.
Oh, wow.
I think, you know. But yeah, no, I mean, it's cool. I like, you know, the radio is a big thing too. I remember when Eye to Eye hit in LA and it was on the radio all the time. That's kind of a cool, that's a really cool feeling, you know, when you're just not even paying attention and it comes on, you know. But I'll be honest with you, man, back in the Warlord days, I'd sit there and call in. It was KOME, KOME, that played rock stuff, and they had this is in San Jose, and they had the like New Hour or whatever, you know, kind of like the new band, and I'd be on that phone, and this was a dial phone,
right? Rotary? Was it rotary?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Hi, can you guys play that Warlord song? Well, I think it's Child of the Dam. Hang it up. Yo, can you guys play that Warlord song? I don't know the name of it. And I was doing that shit all day long, man. I mean, that's all I did.
Did they play it? Did they play it?
Yeah, they did.
All right.
I'll never forget. They played it one time back to back with a Prince, like a new Prince song that just came out. Like I think it might have been Red Corvette or something like that. But no, I remember. No, you got to promote, man. You got to promote.
Hell yeah, you got to do what
you don't do it. No one else will.
Right. Well, cool. So I was going to say, well, back then in the LA days, did you ever play with any bands that like weren't in your genre, with like Fates Warning or anything? Like, did they put you with Rat or like Enough's Enough or any of those bands?
No, but the odd one was when we played with Pantera at the Vic Theater. We did a lot of touring with Sabotage, which was cool. There was a band called Dead On that opened for us a lot. Power Man or Power Mad, something like really nice.
Mad in Minnesota, yeah.
Yeah, they, you know, not exactly the match, but the worst one of all time was playing with Pantera one show when the agent thought it was a great idea, but he forgot that Pantera kind of went from a glam band to a really hardcore band.
Yeah.
And their fans are nasty. And we're up there in our little collared shirts and shit and our floofy hair and shit. And people are throwing shit. I'll never forget looking out there and guys are just going like this.
Oh, man.
You know, and there's like a couple Fates Warning fans, like with the broken glasses and the little pencil protectors, and they're getting the shit beat out of them. And they're flinging like pennies and lit cigarettes at us and stuff like that. And the funniest part about the whole gig is we're like, okay, we're going to cut this short. Okay. You know, between the band guys, like, so we play our songs and we get off, and it was rough, really rough. And then the promoter was pissed that we didn't play that long. Dude, they're going to kill us if we kept playing any longer. You know, those fans were like very hardcore, you know.
Where was that show at?
Chicago, the Vic Theater. Beautiful place. We walk out and go, oh, this is great. Okay, cool. Oh my God, look at all these people. Little did we know that they weren't there for us, you know, and we got out of there quick.
So did Vinny know who you were?
Did who?
Vinny Paul, did he know who you were?
I don't remember. I don't think we talked or saw those guys. I think Ray might have known one or two of them from the Texas connection somewhere along the line. Right. But no, there wasn't a lot of mingling back then. It was only one show.
Oh, gotcha. Cool. So you got to play with Sabotage. Wow.
How about Dr. Killdrums? Is he I've heard stories about him that he's kind of like this. I don't know.
Yeah, it was interesting. You know, he was there in the beginning. And I
Right.
think Jeff was there in the end. I
Yes,
think I
yes.
worked with him a
Jeff
couple
White, yeah.
different times. And the one I remember with Kill Drums was we played someplace in Santa Barbara. And Santa Barbara is a little surf town. It's nothing. And I don't even think they had a stage. And they were trying to build the stage out of tables. And this guy had that drum set that back that looked like a jungle gym.
Right.
There's no way getting around it. You couldn't just say, hey man, put half of that over there. It was like this jungle gym, you know, like guys hanging doing flips off the top. And it was crazy. It was crazy. They were super nice guys. And obviously I went on to do the Spirits of Fire stuff with Chris. And
Right.
he's, you know, Chris Calvary, super funny, nice guy. You know, he is what he is. You know,
That's that guy is my favorite guitar player of all time. you
Chris
know?
Oliva.
Chris Oliva, yeah. Chris had passed by the time that we played with him. We never.
Oh, okay.
Never
So
played.
you're Caffrey.
It's about Chris
Caffrey.
Caffrey.
Okay.
I'm sorry, my mistake. Chris Caffrey. No,
Yeah.
that's who I played on the Spirits of Fire with, and
Yeah.
super nice guy. Just what you see is what you get, and like
Right.
just straight up and cool, and very warm. You know, really nice guy. I really like Chris. He's a very nice guy. But yeah, that was the touring that we did. And, you know, the goofier ones when we did the Man of War thing. It was the Christmas Metal Fest with it's not the real popular band now, but a band called like Sabatone or something.
Sabaton.
Yeah.
Something like that. And then Lizzie Borden. God, who else played that show? I think it might have been Saxon. I think Saxon was on that bill. But
Wow.
anyways, there was 5 of us. And you know, that was the first time I kind of experienced the Man of War thing, you know, and it was impressive. The first time I'd ever been in like an arena where the handrails were actually sweating. You know,
Yeah. So were
Be
they
like-
selling loincloths at the merch booth?
I didn't check. You know, it was interesting, but yeah, we did a lot of those, you know, kind of those big festivals sometimes with other bands. We did a couple with Saxon, I remember, like in the Netherlands. I mean, it wasn't Fates Warning with Saxon. We just happened to be on the bill with 12 other bands,
Right.
that kind of stuff. But you know, that was cool. That was cool.
So toward the end of the 90s, I guess Fates Warning faded out for you. What happened there?
Well, a couple things happened. Number 1, I got married. Number 2, I was going to have a family. And I'd been in the band 15 years, given everything I had. We recorded albums. We rehearsed at my place, you know, no money changing hands. You know, I gave everything that I had. And I could just kind of tell it wasn't, you know, we hit that thing with Eye to Eye and Parallels, and then it died, and the music industry changed.
Right.
And at the same time, I could tell, you know, we're playing the same places to the same people, and I don't see anybody doing anything to change this. So it was just kind of the time. It's not like anything happened. It was just one of those things where I couldn't be in a position. You know, I was getting married. I had a business, you know, I had responsibilities. I couldn't just get a phone call and say, hey, we're going out on tour for 6 weeks and we're leaving a week. I just couldn't have that happening. It just, you know, financially, it wasn't, you know, over the top. And on the other hand, it wasn't like we were playing like these great gigs and I was totally getting off on what we were doing. It was a struggle being out on the road, you know?
Right.
And it's just kind of like you get to that point. I wasn't 19 years old. Okay. I mean, everything was done professionally. I'm not going to say there was anything wasn't. It just kind of got to that point. And it wasn't like, oh, I got to go play in a reggae band because I'm feeling reggae today or anything like that. It was just, I came to Jim and I said to him flat out, I said, you know, Jim and Ray, and I just said, hey, you know, I can't keep doing, you got to remember, this is when it was me, Jim and Ray. That was it. And I just said, hey, I can't keep doing, you know, the touring like this. But if you guys want to work something out, I love the recording process. I love working with you guys. I think it's really special. You know, we can work out the money. I'm not going to be part of the band. You know, I'm not going to hold you up for ransom or anything like that. I just really enjoy, I'd still like to be involved. I just really enjoy the recording process. I just can't jump at going out on tour. And I'm thinking in the back of my mind, there's a million bands that do this. Okay. This isn't like a novel concept. Like, oh, wait a minute. No one's ever done this. And Jim basically said they wanted a guy that would do both, and I respected that, and that's just kind of how it ended. I was basically committed to that last record, which was really tough because when you're kind of going out the door and everybody knows it, and it's tough to get in there and record and not step on people's feet and so on and so forth, and it was kind of rough, but no, I made the offer and I was very upfront. Again, nothing stupid happened. No one, assaulted my dog or, took money out of my checking account or, nothing that Blabbermouth or TMZ would want to get their hands on. It's just really simple. You get to a point. I think I was probably, well, I can tell you exactly how old I was. I was in my early 40s because I got married when I was 43. So you're talking 42-ish, and the other one that sort of not killed it, but kind of really drove the nail home is I'm moving from New York back to, we're moving to San Diego. Got the van packed and I'm like literally loading stuff. And I get this phone call. Oh, we're going out with Queensryche and Dream Theater. We leave in a month or we leave in a week or 2 weeks or whatever. I'm like, guys, I can't just, hey honey, I'm going. Right. That wasn't gonna fly.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of things that made it really difficult.
Right.
The band was not financially rewarding enough to just drop everything. It cost money. It cost money for me to go on tour technically. I had to get a guy to watch the studio. I had to have somebody take care of this. I had someone to take care of that. So love the band. I did my 15 years. It's not like I did 3 years and bailed.
Right.
Went through highs, went through lows. I'd like to think that I was a total team player. I gave everything I had. We were taking gear out of my studio for front of house sound. So we'd have a little bit of an edge kind of thing over everybody else, and that was that. It was a great experience. I learned a lot.
Well, good. So is that how did Mike Portnoy get in? How many shows did he do with them?
I don't think he did that many. I know he's got the one in the famous one in Sao Paulo in Brazil.
Yeah.
I guess Bobby couldn't make it because he had a Sebastian Bach gig or something like that. Which is kind of interesting because that's the thing that Jim didn't want to do.
Right.
And I guess right after I left, Nick DiVirgilio played on that Live in Athens.
Oh wow.
That DVD. And then Bobby, then Bobby came in. So, and now Bobby's with George Strait. So,
are they? Do you know if Fates Warning's on hold because he's on tour with George Strait, or do they have somebody else in the queue? Or
well, here's the thing, none of my business.
Yeah. But I don't know if you've heard anything. I don't know if you keep up with those guys or not.
The thing of it is, you got to remember too, Joey's playing with Merciful Fate. So
and Armored Saints
out on the road. Yeah, and Armored Saint, and it's kind of like, okay, where's the band? How are we going to do this? Right. So I don't know. I don't talk to Jim, we don't hang. Obviously I played on his last Arch Matheos record. I did 2 songs and, I've always told him I'm always here. There's no quote bad blood or anything like that.
Right. Yeah.
People would say whatever they want, and and I don't know if you guys read that book, but everybody's got their personalities, and it's the way it is. If it's as long as you kind of communicate. I always kind of go by this motto of if you tell the truth, they can call you an asshole, but they can't call you a liar.
Right.
And they can't. And especially God, for as many years as I've been in this, and especially in LA, that smile in your face thing and then stab you in the back thing, that's not me. I'll just stab you right in the face right here, if need be. I just never did that one. I was never good at that. Hey man, oh man. Or that's the big funny joke about the drum community. Like, oh, people paint it as like this tight thing of all these brothers and everything like that. When was the last time that some guy said, hey dude, why don't you take my gig? You know what I mean? Right, exactly. Seriously. Come on. It's dog eat dog. Everybody's looking for every nickel and every dime. I'm not going to say people are stabbing each other in the back, but no one's going out of their way. But I do have to say, after all these years, the guy that comes to mind that really sticks out in a positive way is Ray Luzier. I've known Ray for a long time, and he came through my studio. His really good friend, when they moved from Pennsylvania, Pete Parada, who wound up playing with the what's the name of that band? They're huge. They were huge. New way, kind of a
Outfield?
What'd you call it?
Outfield?
No, not the outfield. Much bigger than that. I forgot what it was, but it's one of those big bands. Anyways, and Ray came through the studio, and I'll never forget. And I can make you a list of guys that I've met along the way that I've hooked up and helped in various ways that have never reciprocated. And even when I've went to them, have never reciprocated. But Ray was that one guy where he'd come in with all these different bands, this band, that, the tribute, whatever. And I gave him a great deal. He said, hey, man, we don't have any money. Can you give me a great deal? I said, sure. And I did it because I wanted to do it. Okay, that's the bottom line. I wanted to do it.
Awesome.
But then when he got the gig with David Lee Roth, he comes back in. He didn't go to the big studio in town. He came to me and he said, hey, man, charge this guy your full rate. You know what I mean?
Nice.
So, and Ray's always been that kind of guy. He's not an LA guy per se.
Right.
And that story always sticks out because there's so many. I could tell you stories. Here's a story, and I'm not going to name names. Guy needs to mix his record in my studio. I go, okay, man. We got no money, even though I know they have money. Okay, it's Christmas time. December's usually slow. Here's the deal. $500, whatever. It's really cheap. You can basically mix it till you get done. You got about 4 weeks. You say you can do it in 2, but I'll give you the 4. Okay. Just, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, access, knock yourself out. I know who you are. You know who I am. Okay. I trust you. Go to it. Mix your record. The deal of a lifetime. I mean, that's cheap. I said, hey, man, I've never really heard your band. You got something like a CD or something I can listen to because I just like to check it out? He goes, yeah, for $11.95.
Oh my God.
Serious, dead. And I thought he was, the funniest part is I thought he was joking. I go, yeah, right, sure. He goes, no, man, we have to sell these. We don't make any money. I'm like, okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
There's a million stories I could tell you about dudes that you give deals to and you give breaks to, then all they want is more and more and more and more and more, and they don't give back.
Right. Wow. All right, Mark, let's talk about the reunion of Warlord that y'all started back up in the early 2000s. How that come to be recording a new album with cans from Hammerfall and all that?
I just get in touch with, I kept in touch with Bill all the time, just kind of, hey, dude, if you got anything, let me know. Hey, I figured at a certain point he's going to get the itch. I mean? I figured at a certain point he's going to go, or something. So I just always kept in touch with him. And, he said, yeah, I got some material, and we just started doing it. The thing that was really disappointing, and I can wrap it up really quick in this whole, the thing with Joachim was great, and he became a good friend. I did a solo record back then and did a couple one-off gigs in Sweden. I thought, wow, Warlord can't even find a singer. Now we got a guy in a band that's popular. It's like, this has got to go somewhere. This has got to, we couldn't get a record deal. I couldn't get a record deal. Even Metal Blade, I'll never forget. The gentleman, I think, it's not Brian, but I think the guy had passed away.
Joey?
In Germany.
Zuzula, yeah.
I'm not sure. Don't quote me on who it was, but I'll never forget turning in the material, 3-song demo. I still have it with Joachim singing. And it's cool. It's good.
It's good. I figured Nuclear Blast would have picked them up, or something.
Yeah, exactly. On. We shopped everybody, and even Metal Blade, I'll never forget. I wasn't getting a response, and I kind of got a little pissy, and I wrote to him again. You know what his line was back, and I don't have the email. I wish I did. It just wrote, "Not interested."
Damn.
That was it. I go, and we weren't looking for big money. We didn't even get to that. They just didn't want the record. I don't know if there was a backlash, because I think some people loved Hammerfall and some people didn't love them that much, if you know what I'm saying.
Right.
I think they're kind of polarizing. A lot of people don't like them because they had success, and they're not true metal or whatever people say these days. But I thought myself, boy, this is going to be awesome. This is going to be great. And I remember recording this in New York. when we lived in, I lived in New York, had the studio there. I'll never forget Joachim flying in. We pick him up at JFK. We bring him to the house. We got him set up on the other side of the house. My wife's in some other room and he's in the back bedroom with the microphone and the headphones and just tearing it up, and I just was shocked that nobody wanted to give us a deal. And we wound up with a guy that we knew who had a quote private label funding the whole thing. And then he offed it to Drakkar or whoever that he did at the time. But no, there's some great songs on that record.
Yeah,
There's
I liked it.
really good songs, Invaders, that's, there's great stuff on that record. And I don't know, it kind of went,
Yeah, his solo album was great too. The one you said you played on. I love that album.
Oh, really? The one with Mike, Metal Mike.
Open the Gates, or what was it
Yeah,
called?
exactly. Beyond the Gates or something.
Beyond the
like
Gates. Yeah, I knew it was something.
Yeah.
To do.
There's another guy. Remember Metal Mike?
Yep,
Played
yep.
Halford?
Halford, yeah.
He's a super, super nice guy. I met him when he was with Halford at the studio, and just a super nice guy. I mean, there's certain people along the way that you go, wow, man, very cool. And then certain guys you go, oh, not so cool.
Right.
But no, he was a great guy.
Cool. So we're kind of running out of time, Mark. I want to touch on a couple other things. The Slavier project, that one meant a lot to me because we both have a mutual friend. Obviously, you worked with Greg and I on that.
Yep.
And I was good friends with Greg before he died. We opened up for his band back in Albuquerque when he was with Seven Sign. I was in a band called Mankind, so we got to open up a couple shows. And when I found out he was recording with you and putting out an album with you, that just made my day because I hadn't talked to Greg in a long time, And that record is so underrated, man. And
Yep. Well, put it this
I was
way.
waiting for you guys to come through town, and I never saw you here in Dallas. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, that was well, the label didn't support it, number one, and had the A&R guy come up to me. Well, you saw those clips of us playing live in my studio there.
Yeah. Yeah.
The label was there, and the guy came up to me flat out and he said, hey, that's a great record. Dove should be a hit song, but we don't know what to do with it. Hold on. So we're kind of like, okay. And, I thought Greg was an untapped talent, I'm surprised he never wound up in some really big band,
Yeah, me too. I mean, there was some talk that they were supposed to get signed by Seven Sign with Enigma.
Yeah, good old Enigma.
Yeah, and I don't know what fell through there. I think they lost their guitar player or something like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so did you guys already have another album ready to record with Slavery?
Well, it's kind of a funny story, truth be told. We had a lot of material because, again, it was kind of like the A through Z stuff where they would start with the drum stuff. And
Right.
we had a lot of stuff, and we actually have 4. I think I sent them to you, the 4 that are complete, basically.
Yes.
Yeah. And that was with Philip Bino playing bass, and it was heading in a little bit of a different direction. Greg was great. And, as long as we're telling true stories, the bottom line is, Wayne's playing with Michael Schenker.
Right, yeah.
Okay? And the label is requiring us to turn in demos to get the advance for the next record to go, because they want to hear the direction. And basically Wayne says, well, I'm going to be out for 6 months with Schenker, or 3 months, or something, a long, long time. And one of the songs needed a small lead section in it. And I said, well, dude, you got to send me a lead or something that we can use. And everything he sent didn't work, and it sounded horrible, and it just didn't work. So he goes out on tour. So the engineer, Joe Marlette, who's mixing it, who's the same guy who mixed the album, comes in and plays just a really simple, almost U2 kind of beginning kind of lead.
Yeah.
It sounds great. It's perfect. Perfect. Are you going to get the gig with Led Zeppelin? No, but it makes the song perfect. It lets us continue as a band. Now we can turn in these songs. He mixes them and turns them in. And it caused a little bit of a problem in the band.
What?
As Wayne had a problem with someone else playing on a demo to get it done.
Wow.
And it all kind of fell apart from there. And of course, what I find very funny about this is Wayne loved the mix job that Joe Marlette did on the album, but now all of a sudden the mix on the demos suck. Well, wait a minute, same dude, same drum, same guitar, same everything. So it kind of all went in the toilet, you know, and it was just, you know, hey, you know, it could have been discussed. You know, I told him, I said, I can't sit here for 3 months when we're rolling, you know. If you want to go out, if you want to, I don't expect you to stay, but you can't hamper us. Hold on one second, guys. Hey, Lise.
So I was gonna say, you know, obviously Greg passed away, motorcycle accident, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was gonna ask you, I think I asked you this last time. There was a drum clinic that you did over at MIT, and you did 11th Hour, and you did Point of View. I think I asked you this, and it didn't sound like Ray on those tracks, man. But that was Greg singing, right?
That was Greg singing. That was Nick Van Dyke from Redemption playing guitar, and Nick Van Dyke's bass player. I think I forgot his name. Andrew? No, the bass player that plays in Redemption. It's the same guy. He played the bass. They were very nice and cordial and helped me because, you know, I didn't have the master tracks. No one was going to give me the master tracks to like cut the drums off and play to. So I needed something. And Greg stepped up, Nick stepped up, and the bass player, who I forgot his name, stepped up, did it all for free, you know, recorded these tracks for me. And then I used them, obviously, at those clinics. I used them, God, I must have done 50 clinics, you know, during those times. And there's Greg, man, long hair. He looks like a freaking rock star. The thing about Greg, that he always had that smile on his face.
Right.
Always.
Always.
And it really showed through. I remember when we played in Japan. We actually played a gig. I don't know if you've seen those videos, but we played in a very, very, very small club in Japan. It was me, Wayne. All the keyboards were on a computer.
Right. And, yeah, I saw those videos. Yeah.
Yeah. And Philip. And no, Greg was great. I still don't understand why he never clicked in like a huge band. I don't know.
Yeah, but he worked with a lot of cool people, you know what I mean? Mainly you got to work with George Lynch, you know.
Yeah, but he didn't have that band that you go, oh, that's his mark. Like Bruce Dickinson, you're not gonna go, yeah, man, dude was badass, and Samson. You're not gonna say that.
Right.
Iron Maiden. You know, it's we never got that, you know, and I always kind of went, wow, you know, it's like the guy was so talented.
Well, something you and I have in common with Greg was I actually got to jam with him twice. He was in a cover band called Hooligan, and they lost their drummer, and they asked me to come in, and I actually got to play 2 rehearsals. I got to do 2 rehearsals with Greg, and then he ended up quitting to go join Seventh Sign. So that was cool, you know what I mean? Being able to jam some old Andy Timmons, you know, Danger and stuff with Greg. That was cool, man. But yeah, Greg was just one of those talents, man, you know, gone way too soon, you know?
Absolutely.
But
yeah, it's funny because since then, Travis and I have spoken several times.
Nice.
And he did this latest recording thing, and he said he took a lot of the ideas that I gave him. I think you were asking about the drum sounds and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know? And at first I told him, well, they're all samples. No. But, we talked about, you know, the drum heads, you know, using a very thin drum head that's going to give you, you know, a little bit more tone and almost volume. It won't be so muted. You know, I also did talk to him about, you know, certain parts you just don't want to play. You know, you have to think from a drummer's point of view, like through stereo speakers. Like if I hit a bunch of crash cymbals and play some big fill, it's just like a big mess. You have to worry about space. You have to worry about sonically, how is this going to translate? You know, just the space and the air. But we talked about different things and how to, you know, kind of clean up the tracks per se for a recording. And, but no, hopefully it was beneficial to him, you know.
Well, good. That's good. Well, we're going to find out because I'm going to, I booked some studio time with him for April. So we're going to see how your council turns out. You know, I'm going to go in and do 2 songs with this other band that I used to be in.
Oh, cool. Because when he sent me a track that he just recorded, and the first thing I said to him was, dude, you got to turn the drums up.
Right.
Seriously. You know, and I also told him, I was trying to give him a little hint that when you got the keyboards, the guitar, and the bass, and they're all pushing at certain frequencies, it's kind of that wall of noise, and nothing breathes. You can't hear it. The drums are just buried. You know, I said, you might want to go look at your EQs, and, you know, what I found over the years, the best way to mix is subtracting, not adding. It's usually not adding a bunch of crap. It's taking a bunch of that crap off. I mean, so many times when I'm doing a track for somebody and they'll send me the guitar, there's so much low end on it. I think the bass is being played.
Right.
And I'm thinking, God, when the bass finally comes in and the bass player plays, it's going to be a mush. So I take it and I notch the low frequencies right out of the guitar. So, you know, it's like putting a puzzle together. You know,
Right.
a lot of guys don't realize that. And, you know, Travis will get there. It's just, that's one of those experiences, and that's how anybody gets there. No one's born with the gift. It's like, you do it enough times, you go, oh, maybe I should try something different. Oh, that kind of works. You know, oh, take that out. Oh, try that. You know.
We can move on to the A to Z stuff. I know we talked about that. Well, we talked a lot about this last time, but again, for me, another work of art. You know, that album is just off the chain, especially like Travis was saying, especially the drum sound on it is just, man, it's huge. It's huge. I haven't heard anything like that in a long time. You know?
Thanks. Actually, you know, the engineer Simone did an amazing job. That's just a 20-inch kick, 10-inch rack, and a 14-inch floor. That's what
Wow.
that is. Great mics, great gear, great engineer that we got the sounds. And I'll be honest with you, I spent a lot of time cleaning those tracks before I sent them to mix. I mean, that's what you do with a record. Usually you stick that on the engineer to do, but I did it, you know, and they were clean. I think probably the first band that I kind of produced myself, just by myself, kind of did everything. I mean, I made that first phone call. I got the players, you know, obviously the keyboard player was working with the guitar player, so he brought him in, but, you know, getting Ray and getting Philip, dealing with Hugh Syme, the artist, getting the deal at Metal Blade, you know, the 122 interviews, getting the videos done. You know, people don't realize that, you know, good records come out and they do well. They don't do well just because they're good records. You know, it's like anything else. It needs to be worked. It needs to be pushed. It needs to be, in a polite way, shoved down people's throats. You need to be that guy that is constantly in their face, whether you're sending them a new video, whether you're sending them a metal plaque and saying thanks for the interview, or whatever the case may be. It's about selling and the conversation. That's why they call it the music business. Right. So when people sit around and they think, oh, well, our record did pretty good because it's just a really good record. Well, that's just the first start. That's the starting spot. And then you go from there, you know, because no one knows who you are, you know. Exactly. And, you know, I did all that. It was a labor of love. I love doing it. You know, I'm going to do it again. And, you know, someone has to drive the bus, like they say. You know, you can't have part-time bus drivers where you're driving along and say, oh, I'm going to get some coffee, and then just walk off the bus seat while the bus is going. You know, there has to be someone doing that, or just it turns into a joke, you know, and nothing gets done. So I had no problem with it. It was my vision. It was my idea. I wanted to do exactly what we did. I wanted the album cover and artwork to be top notch. I wanted to compete with anybody and everybody. So I got the guy who does anybody and everybody with Hugh Syme. You know, he was a little busy doing the Dream Theater record, and then he was going to move on to the Rush box set. So I think I was in the right spot.
Well, yeah, obviously, yeah.
You know, and the same thing when it came to the videos, having my good friend Chris Grosso edit them. You know, I couldn't just send them out to somebody, you know, and just working with people, you know, and working really hard to find the right engineer. I auditioned like 8 guys. You know, I auditioned guys that won Grammys. I auditioned guys that no one ever heard of, thinking, hey, you never know. All you need is that one guy that's going to turn that mix into. You're going to go, oh my God, he gets it. He gets what we're trying to do. And we found that in Simone, you know. You know,
for those that don't know who A to Z, kind of explain to people who's in that band and when it started and all that. There might be some new people on here that might not know.
Well, the A and the Z are Ray Alder and Mark Zonder, obviously.
Right.
That name came out of nowhere, basically, when Ray mentioned it one day. Because, you know, finding the name of a band is the hardest thing going.
Right.
I'd rather load gear for 6 days and try to figure out the name of a band. It never works. But, and then the first guy that I contacted was Vivian Leloup, who's a keyboard player in France, because I contacted Matt Guillory, who'd done a lot of work with James Labrie, and, you know, a well-known guy, and asked him if he was interested in starting something with me. And he basically turned me on to Viv, basically probably because we didn't have any money. I didn't have any money to pay him, which is okay. And then, obviously Philip, when I play, Philip plays. That's all there is to it. If I'm doing something, Philip Bino, even if he's out with Vi, he gets it done. And, great guy, and, truly a really, really, really great friend of mine. And then obviously, Ray. And then Vivid worked with Jupe, the guitar player, for like 20 years, probably kind of a myself and Philip kind of relationship, probably. And there's the band, and away it went.
Was this after Ray left Redemption, or right toward?
No, it was after. He was gone. He was gone. When I contacted him, I don't think he was in the middle of anything. No, I think he was doing that Derek Sherinian thing or whatever, that speechlessness, or I forgot what the name of it was. But he was finishing that up. And so then he started working on our stuff, and it came out the way it was. What you hear is what he turned in, basically. There wasn't a million rewrites. There was never, kind of like, we really kind of had it formulated to where we wanted it, because we knew about verses and choruses and stuff like that. And what was amazing is he sang over a lot of parts that were supposed to be musical, that we thought were going to be musical parts that we'd make out later. And we just let him go. And that to me was the whole crux of the band, as compared to a lot of other bands that I play in aren't like this. But my deal was like, okay, here's the basic idea. I want all you guys to contribute your stuff. If you want to play little guitar lines, leads behind the vocal, cool. Just make them good. Just make them cool. I kept having to tell Philip, dude, play more. I want to hear the bass really come out. Just don't sit there on the E train and bang it out. I go, you could do that and you'd be okay, but I want guys to go over the top. Let's face it, we're not shooting for AM radio. It's not like, it's not like we're competing with Captain and Tennille and the Ohio players for airtime. So as much as you want to have commercial songs and have big hooks, I think that's what people want. We can play all around that, and we can spice it up, and we can really tear it up instead of making it sound bland, because at the end of the day, you're not going to have an A&R guy look at us and go, hey man, I don't hear a hit. Or, hey, can you make that drum beat simpler, like your drum machine demo? You're not going to hear that. So we had the freedom to do what we wanted, and that's what came out of it, and that's exactly where I wanted to go and what I thought would happen. And, it worked out well.
It's always good when a plan works, right, Mark? So
yeah, it's funny though. And as time goes on, how many people can't see how something actually works. But that worked really well, but I got a better idea, and it's kind of like, well, wait a minute, this formula is working. Why are we, jumping off? You know what I mean? It's like Ferrari going, these body shapes, are kind of cool and people really like them, but let's go to a really boxy looking car.
Right, like a Volvo.
Yeah, exactly. Let's box it up. Or Volvo going, hey, people love Volvos, and it's like, hey, the Volvo all of a sudden went, hey, we're gonna make these all sleek and cool and make them like European sports cars. People would be going, huh? What are you doing? If I wanted that, I'd go to the Ferrari dealership. I want what you guys make, So, it's amazing, but no, it was this thing was so planned out. This was like IBM or something. From the beginning, all those ideas. I mean, there was lists of them of like, okay, I want to do this. I want to do this. Hey, in the videos, this is what I want to see. I know we're going to be tight because we all can't shoot in the same place, but hey, here's how it's supposed to look. Get it done. Philip Bino didn't have any problem making it look like we were in the same room. Professionals are professionals. That's all I can say.
Exactly.
And
when are we going to see this on the road?
Kind of in the middle of putting some material together for a second record. It's really tough to be on the road these days,
Just select gigs. You guys going to at least do a few maybe around where you guys are at?
Well, the funny thing of it is, I'm here in LA, Philip's in Arizona, the guitar player, is in the Netherlands, and the keyboard player is in France, and Ray's in Spain. I'm not saying that you couldn't use other members. I don't have any problem with that. The idea is to get the music out. That's that's the hardest part for me. But what I'm thinking is, you can get a second record in the can, then you don't have that problem when you play a gig that, I got to play cover tunes, or I have to play this. You can just play your record. You know what I mean? I'll never forget when I saw Boston way back at the Cow Palace in San Francisco years ago years ago when that first album came out. They had 8 songs, they had 35 minutes or whatever, but they played 4 or 5 songs from the next record. Didn't come out for fucking decades later, but I remember songs that they played, their songs. They didn't go and play an Eric Clapton song, or they didn't go play a Black Sabbath cover.
Right.
I know bands do that. I'm not a big fan of playing covers, even though I got to say, Slave Year, we played Stormbringer and Can't Happen Here by Rainbow with Greg. We did that.
Nice.
We did that in Japan. He tore up Stormbringer.
I bet. I can already hear it.
Yeah, it was great. Oh, it was awesome. But
Fates Warning did some good covers. In Trance. In Trance. Were you on that?
Yeah, I did In Trance, Sign of the Southern Cross,
yes,
Closer to the Heart.
Yeah, I heard that too.
There was a Priest one too. There was a Priest one. I forgot which Judas Priest song.
Saints in Hell. Saints in Hell.
Oh, is that what it was? Okay, yeah. There you go.
That was great. Yeah, that was a great
version. I think I did 4. I think there was 4. Yeah.
Cool.
Was it?
Yeah,
I haven't heard that one. I gotta check it out.
Yeah, it's on. I've got that.
Nice.
Great.
Nice.
I mean,
cool. So are you guys in pre-production for the second record, Mark? Or are you guys already in?
Yeah, well, there's some changes going on. There's some kind of big time changes happening here, but it's rolling forward.
Cool, man. I'm looking forward to that. When do you expect at the end of this year, next year?
Yeah, probably. We gotta, everything's working out. It just takes a little time, to get it going, and you want to do it right. And it will not be just album 2, a continuation, of the first record. It's kind of funny, you have this conversation with the guys in the band, and you guys will get a kick out of this one, where he's like, hey, okay, I got all these new ideas. I got these drum ideas. I'm incorporating electronics a little bit more, and it's a little bit more hard hitting, not heavy like heavy metal, but like just that really kind of that punch in your face kind of heavy thing, and one guy says, well, we have a couple of songs left over that didn't make it to the first album, that we could use. And I looked at him and I said, there's a reason they didn't make it.
They didn't make it on the album, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I've never been a fan of that. I know Bill and Warlord kind of spun a few out a few times over and over and stuff, but I'm always game for like, hey, this is 2 years later. We're in a different spot, a different place. Let's look at this completely fresh and go from the ground instead of dragging in these ideas that weren't good enough to make the first cut. Because if they were good enough, they would have been on the record, right? I mean, technically they would have been.
Well, as much as I love Metallica, they did that on Load and Reload.
Yeah.
They just had stuff on the cutting room floor that they made in the songs, you know what I mean? So
hey, well, I think that you get to that point like Metallica, you can do whatever you want. That's what we have the joke around here, like, hey, my dog could manage LeBron James, you know what I mean? My dog could get him a deal at Pepsi or Coke. You can do whatever you want. They're coming to your door.
They're Metallica. Somebody said one time they did an interview with Lars, and they said people say that you sold out, and Lars told them, "Yeah, we sell out every night." You know what I mean?
We sell every place we ever played. Yep.
Right? Yeah, absolutely.
So it's safe to say Warlord's done now that Bill passed away, right? So there'll never be no other Warlord.
No, the truth be, there was talk about this concert and that concert, but that guy was so special, and so it was him. It really was him.
Yeah, it was.
It was his whole thing. I was lucky enough to catch it and add everything that I had from the drumming side and the business side and make it go. But that was Bill. Bill was Warlord in a conversation. You know what I mean? And it would be, and I've seen bands, hell, there's bands out there playing right now that don't have one original musician in them. You know what I mean? So, what am I going to do? Get some guitar player to come out and try to mimic Bill? It's like, wow.
His dream. It was his dream. It was his world. I mean, he can't just.
Yeah, no, you don't want to get into that,
Yeah. I was sad to see he passed away. It was last year, wasn't it? Yeah. 2 years ago, something like that.
I think it's been 2. Yeah.
So what do you think now on that subject, Mark? What do you think of the Pantera reunion?
I've never been a Pantera fan, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I don't think it's anybody's right to tell anybody else what not to do. If they were, put it this way, if those guys got together and went out and played Foreigner songs, you kind of go, but didn't the dude front the band?
Yeah.
He was the main guy in the band.
And their bass players, they're
Yeah.
they're not original member. Rex isn't an original member, right?
Neither
Well,
of them
but
are
here-
original.
But they were there when they got
Yeah,
went
but,
through the group,
but,
you know?
but that's kind of a special thing too, because you got two guys that just couldn't make the gig. You know what I mean?
Right?
You know, it's unfortunate when people pass away. You know, it's kind of an interesting one when people are alive and they can't get it together to do something. You know, I guess now Richie Sambora is going back with Bon Jovi.
Yeah, I read that today. Yeah.
Because the fans deserve it. Really?
Yeah.
It's like it took you that long to figure that one out, but
Right.
I don't know. I think, hey, you got guys that were from the band and major guys. You know, it would be one thing if the bass player went out and got a bunch of other dudes and called it Pantera and tried to pull it off. But and I'm not a fan and I don't keep up, but as I remember, the singer was the big part of the freaking band. I mean, everybody was. I mean, but he was just as big a part as anybody else. So he has every right to go out and play it.
Right. And
Yeah.
we did get the blessing of the family. So, you know, there you go.
Yeah.
But I just thought I'd get your take on it since we were talking about Bill, you know, and
Yeah,
like you were
no,
saying, bringing in somebody.
Yeah, I guess a lot of people look at it like if Alex Van Halen died, would you go out and go to a Van Halen show without Alex and Eddie there? It's the same. A lot of people think it's the same thing, but I don't know.
I understand that. I get it. I get it. But that's why there's 31 flavors at the ice cream store.
Exactly.
Right.
You know, it's like, hey, if you don't like it and you're not
Don't
into
go. Yeah, don't go.
it, there you go. Don't buy the t-shirt. You know,
Exactly.
you know, but you know that there's a little bit of that. I think over the last 10 years, it's gotten so ridiculous in life in general that everybody has to comment on everybody else's stuff. You know, I kind of go with this one. Do whatever you're gonna do. Don't get it in my face. And don't get it in my business, and we'll be good.
Exactly.
I mean, if you want to, lip sync like crazy, I don't care. Go ahead. Go ahead. Not my business. I'm not going to do it, but I'm not going to tell you you can't do it. You know?
All right. Yeah, I guess whatever gets you paid, I guess, right? I guess in this day and age.
Hey, again, I've always said I might not like your band, but if you can make money in this business, I have to take my hat off to you because it is a nasty, unforgiving, no rules kind of thing. I mean, the bottom line is, pro sports, there's a 90% chance if you're good enough, you will get a contract and get on a team. Okay.
Right.
That doesn't work in the music business.
Nope, not at all.
So it's and half the time you're scratching your head going, how did that happen? It's like you just can't figure it out. So anytime anybody can make money legally, I'm into it. Count me in.
Right. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Should we do the top 5?
I don't think we did.
So last time, Mark, you were on, we did the top 5. Was it top 5 drummers of
Yep.
Who are your influences?
your top 5 influences.
Yep. Are we starting at the top or the bottom?
Wherever
Whichever
you
way
want,
you want.
you're the guest.
Start at 5. Let me think about this. I'd have to put at number 5 Neil Peart and Peart, or however we're pronouncing these days.
Right.
Again, I've said it a million times. It wasn't so much. It's 2 things that I got from him and appreciate, and things that a lot of people overlook. Number 1, the actual playing. I mean, the playing's cool. There's a lot of drummers that take it further. The playing was great, but at the same time, he is playing in a situation where you're in a 3-piece band, and it's like, okay, dude, you got to fill it up a little bit. So that's great. I mean, great player, but the fact that he brought in the other instrumentation kind of stuff, the different things, and even the electronics a little bit, but he wasn't afraid to do things out of the box. So that's number 1. But the other thing too is that I think a lot of people overlook, but the drummers shouldn't, but a lot of people do, is the fact that he made it cool to have the drummer be the star.
Right.
He made it cool. Okay, everybody loved Ringo, but you talked about John and Paul first. Okay. And all these bands, Bonham was huge and big, but you always talk about Plant and Page.
Right.
Neil really made it cool to be out there, and I don't want to say overplay, but to really put the drums out there. So that's the one big thing, a couple things about him that I really loved and really got from him. loved Dave Garibaldi from Tower of Power just because he played so differently than Tommy Aldridge, Cozy Powell, Steve Smith, and all those great rock drummers. You know, I mean, I know a lot of those guys are more than rock drummers, but you know, him just coming in from a different place took a lot of ideas from him, because I was always looking to branch out and do different things. You know, Jeff Porcaro has to be in there just because the groove and the feel and the idea of just how he played. A little bit also too with him, his attitude was cool. He had a cool vibe and an attitude of like time to look at the drummer, which is always cool. You know, when drummers, you know, play like that. The next group is going to be grouped in with a bunch of like 3 guys together. It's going to be like Dave Weckl, Vinnie Colaiuta, the Dennis Chambers, the Steve Smith, the guys that, as much as everybody loves Neil Peart, I get it, these guys are like just playing wise, chop for chop, groove for groove, just above and beyond, just complete animals. And there's a million guys that I haven't talked about. I mean, come on, you can't in 5 minutes. Stuart Copeland's great. You know, all those guys from the Motown era that I love the music so much, those guys, I mean, there's a million of them that are just great. But the one big influence that I always keep going back to that really formed my style was Ensley Dunbar. And it was the first 3 Journey records where, you know, I lived in San Jose and they were from San Francisco, and we'd see them all the time in small clubs. And he was the guy that the first time that I saw an inverted China, you know, upside down.
Wow. Upside down.
Yeah, upside down. He was the first guy that I really saw tear it up playing traditional grip. And he's also the first guy that I ever saw that had a drum set that had stars and moons and stuff. And he was kind of a big guy. He's kind of tall and just tearing it up with a rock feel, but he had that jazz blues kind of background and he could float it. You know, they playing stuff on those first 3 records before, you know, Steve Perry came on the scene. And I saw him up close. I mean, like 25 feet away kind of thing in small clubs. And that hi-hat thing that he always did. And all the old drummers did. Watch Buddy Rich, watch Louis Bellson, watch everybody else. It's just been a common phenomenon like the last 30 years where rock drummers don't use their left foot. And
I saw your video on that, by the way.
Oh, okay. But I saw, you could hear it in the records, and I'd be going like, what is that? What is that, an overdub? You know, what's going on with the, you know, over there? And I'd watch him play, along with other people too. You know, the jazz guys were big on that.
Right.
You took that because it was the hi-hat and the ride, but when you took that and put it in a rock context and just really used that left foot, I mean, I live and die with the hi-hat just because there's so many sounds that come out of that thing. You know, the snare drum, what? You got a rim click, and then you got a backbeat. Okay, that's pretty much it. You know, and I'm not talking about, oh, well, hit it not so soft. That doesn't count. But the hi-hat, there's like 8 sounds.
Don't forget the snare. Don't forget the snare sound in Saint Anger. That's another thing you could do with it.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Well, I used to love, you know, who was it? Dream Theater, when they do a record and there would be a problem with, you know, people would have a negative comment, and the quote that used to go around the industry was, "We're experimenting."
Exactly, we're experimenting. There you go.
Chuck, what do you think? What are
my favorite drummers?
Oh, I already know Lars is one of them. You can't say Mark either. You can't use Mark.
Okay, well, no, Lars is my top because I just, like I was telling Mark, you know, I identify with his drumming, but 2 through 5 is Mark Zonder.
Oh,
okay.
No, but Mark, obviously you're yes.
I won't let him pick you though. So he's got to name me 5 drummers that don't include you.
That don't include Mark?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
I already know he's on your list, but you got to.
Let's go with Mark. I got to go with Mike Portnoy for sure. Ray Lazier, the stuff he did with George Lynch. Oh my God. Who else?
Yeah, Ray's an animal.
Ray is beyond an animal. He's God. Anyway, who else? I can't think right now. But how about Cozy? Let's go with Cozy because
yeah, you can't go wrong with that. No.
Yeah, you know, stuff he did with Tony Iommi. You know, he was in Black Sabbath for a while.
Oh yeah, Headless Cross.
Headless Cross is just epic. And you know, I like Bobby J too, man. I love his stuff he did with Halford. Yeah. And Bobby J's just I don't know if you've seen that video that he did on his instructional DVD. It's called School. If you get a chance, Mark, check that out. It's pretty cool. I mean,
he's hitting the cymbals.
I seen that one. I was gonna say, I've seen the one, it's lit up really cool. It's like a lot of color, a lot of color. Yeah, I saw the one with the hitting the cymbals behind him.
Yeah,
I didn't realize he played barefoot.
Right, barefoot, yeah. Actually, I think I scared him because I followed him into a Fuzzy's Tacos here in Dallas. It was the second time I saw him with Fates, the second time. So I chased him into a freaking Fuzzy's Tacos to get a picture with him. He was really cool. I went up to him and go, Bobby, look, I'm not psycho or anything, man. I just love your playing. Can you take a picture with me? So he was really cool about it. But
he's a really nice guy. He was, I think I told you guys, when he got the gig with Fates, he was playing with Halford, and Halford was at the studio at the time. So Bobby would sit in the studio and learn all the Fates Warning parts. And no, he didn't ask me for any help, and I didn't quote tutor him. He was just in my studio, which was kind of, it wasn't weird, but it was kind of weird hearing the guy play my parts coming out of the room.
Right. But you have to be kind of flattered at the same time, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, he was the most important part of the whole thing is he's a really cool guy. He was nice. Right. You know how it is with bands, and one guy's leaving and one guy's coming. It can get ugly and stupid, and all that kind of stuff. But no, I thought the fact that I had him in my studio and was cool with it, and trust me, it wasn't big money changing hands or any of that.
Right. Mark, you're just a nice guy, man, and that's cool. You know what I mean?
Very nice guy.
When I saw him on that tour, that first tour they did with Fates Warning, didn't Taylor open up for him on that tour? The Ice Storm?
In Trees, yeah.
Was it the Ice Storm or was it the year after?
It was an Ice Storm.
It was the Ice Storm. There was really hardly anybody there because we had an ice storm. And nobody knows how to drive in Texas when it ices here, so nobody went to the show, right? But that was the first night I saw Bobby J on drums, and he was just thinking. You could tell he was thinking. He didn't want to mess it up, right? He was just thinking. And then the tour after that, when they came back, they did, I think, a second leg to that same tour the year after. And you could tell he was much more comfortable. He was looking out in the audience, he was winking at people. He was raising his sticks in the air, So it was cool to see him like that, it was cool.
No, absolutely. That's cool. That's a cool story.
Yeah. But yeah, I did chase him into that Fuzzy's Tacos. Oh, and then when I came out, I saw Jim going inside the venue and I yelled his name and I was trying to get the elusive unicorn, Jim Mateos, to take a picture with me, but he blew me off. But it's all good.
I don't think
no one has one of those, right?
Yeah.
But I tried, man. I tried.
Yeah. Okay.
So Jeff, who's your favorite top five drummers?
I'm not a drummer, so I don't know any of those technical guys you guys were talking about. I'm more into visuals. And when I was a kid, I loved Keith Moon because he was just crazy.
Yeah.
I could watch him all day, destroy everything. And John Bonham for his hard hitting. It was just, I just remember when I was a kid hearing that boom. And Danny Seraphin from Chicago.
Oh, absolutely.
People leave out a lot. And Bev Bevan from ELO.
Absolutely.
There's odd ones like that, but my favorite live drummer, it might be stupid.
I know who it is.
Zoltan Chaney. I could watch that guy all day, just do the stupid things that he does. It's insane. I can't stop watching him. I don't know the other guys are on stage.
No, I know. But there's no way he could play a Fates Warning gig.
Oh, hell no, he cannot.
And do that.
Balance your stick on your nose and kick with your feet while you're playing a Fates Warning song. No way.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, he has to play with Vince Neil and Slaughter, which like he's doing now.
I was going to say,
in order to do those songs, but I'm amazed by the stuff he does.
Right? No, that's definitely a show within the show. I hear you. That's cool.
Al. All right.
I know you're like Filthy Animal from Motorhead. I know
He's one of them. I'm going to kind of go sideways here. Wacko from Raven.
Wacko from Raven.
For just showmanship.
Yeah.
I mean, I seen him live once.
He broke his arm several times hitting cymbals.
And the first stuff.
And he had dudes running around catching his drums.
Right.
Back up.
Didn't you have the first
actually
drum set? Mark, didn't you have the first all Rototom drum set? Wacko?
What's that?
Rob Hunter, right? Rob Hunter. Didn't you have the first all Rototom drum set? Rob Wacko Hunter?
From Raven?
He sticks his head
I'm not sure, but I just hung out with those guys because we were at the Heavy Metal Hall of Fame thing in Agora Hills. And those guys in that band are very cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Very nice guys.
Wacko's not with him, or I think he went crazy or something, but
he went into producing albums for other bands like At War and
who else? Motorhead, Raven, who else?
All right. Next would be Bozio.
That's a good one. Missing Persons.
and Zappa. I mean,
Zappa.
Funky's
Yeah.
whips where he
And
where he
one
stands
corn
up
album.
playing, holding the microphone, lead vocals, and playing. He's just like unbelievable player. So he was pretty awesome. I got to see him do that with Zappa Plays Zappa. I don't know, maybe a decade ago. That was pretty awesome.
Who's number 5?
Another one is Bill Ward.
Bill Ward.
Bill Ward.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
7. Steady.
Quick Bill Ward story for you. Bill Ward was in the studio, but he was producing a band. So he's not really playing. And he's dressed up kind of very English and very nice. And I'll never forget, and I'm running around setting up the drum mics or whatever. And I'll never forget, he sits down before the band gets there just to do the quick sound check. And I'm about 4 feet away. And I've never heard so much. It was like getting hit with a hammer. It was insane what this guy just sat down. He's not a big guy or nothing. And just when he hit, it was like the seas parted. Kind of like when I heard Ray Gillen in a rehearsal while I was auditioning for Badlands sing. It's like the clouds part. It's the weirdest feeling. But when Bill Ward hit that hi-hat, I'm not going to say I almost messed my pants, but it was like, damn.
Wait,
Damn, Jana.
wait, this is exclusive for me. You tried out for Badlands, Mark?
Yeah.
What?
It was, there's some great stories there.
Wow.
It was over at Mates, Bobby's studio, and Bobby's Bobby owns Mates, and Mates is a big place. Bobby was a 13-year-old kid sitting on the floor in Warlord Manor watching Warlord.
Wow.
For years. Bobby's dad was one of the writers on Happy Days, like one of the big.
Oh, okay, cool.
Anyways, so Greg Chasen is the bass player. Jake is there, and I'll never forget. We're jamming, whatever, and Ray's not there, but Jake has to stop in the middle of rehearsal to trade a guy a guitar for a carburetor or something with cars. It was kind of weird. It was kind of funny.
Nice.
But I've never heard a guitar that loud and that piercing. So here it is, louder than hell. Ray walks in, and I dealt with Ray before because he came to the studio one time to book time, and he was looking at the rooms, and classic rock star walks in with the 2 girls and the whole 9. And I'll never forget this audition. We're playing in this room, and it's not a very big room. It's not small, but it's not big. Very loud. And Ray walks in. We keep playing. He just kind of picks up the mic, walks to the middle, and it's loud. It's like really stupidly loud. And he starts singing, and I swear to God, it's like the clouds parted.
Right.
I've never heard a voice like that before. And it cut through, and it was like, damn.
Wow. Well, just think, if you would have gotten that gig, Mark, you actually might be the drummer for Kiss right now.
I thought about that. No. It's just I'll never forget that voice.
Yeah, Ray was just outstanding, man.
Yeah, I saw him in Black Sabbath in like
Right, Born Again.
86. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was the next coming of Coverdale and those kind of Dio kind of guys.
Yeah, for sure.
But the real deal, he wasn't like a lot of these guys now that are trying really hard to be like that. There's a couple of guys now that, some people would say, wow, he sounds great, but he's just like really trying like so hard to be Dio. He's trying so hard to put the rasp in there. He's trying so hard to grunt it out as compared to Ray was just bam.
Right.
Yeah.
There it was,
Man.
Really gifted.
Wow, what could have been, Mark? What could have been with Badlands? That's awesome.
Yeah, but that would have been a quick career.
Right. Yeah. So what's up with Jake? How come he should have called you for Red Dragon Cartel? Did you ever get a phone call for that?
No, the truth be told is I don't really kind of float in those circles.
Right.
I float in, I don't know what the hell circles I float in, but they're different. I really don't know. It's a little, I'm not that guy hanging out, drinking and
Right.
on Sunset hanging. I was never very good at that whole thing. Now I'm trying to turn myself into a big fat whore and just get out there and play with everybody and do this and do that and everything like that. But those days of like when that stuff was going on, I didn't fit that mold, if that makes sense.
Right. No, I got you. Yeah. I
just
got you.
wasn't that guy. I mean, I had the hair and I had the leather jackets. It was funny, we go to the Heavy Metal Hall of Fame and, and I'll be 65 come April. And trust me, Lou Graham's older than I am, I mean, he looks great, but I think Lou and I were the only guys who didn't have leather jackets.
Wow.
It was like, damn, I don't want to break it to like 60-year-old dudes that aren't in the greatest of shape.
Right.
The leather jacket shit, dudes, I don't know, man. I get it. I get it. It just wasn't, back in the day. Yeah, man. I had the Capezios and the tight jeans, and I had the cool Wilson's House of Suede and leather, the cool jacket with the little zippers up the side and shit, and the boots. I had the Scorpion boots, man. Come on. But
Yeah.
there's a time and a place.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. Well, Mark, we totally appreciate you giving us some extra time, man, and even doing the second interview with us, man. It means
absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely,
and maybe we can do it again soon.
We'll get it right this time.
Yeah, hopefully we get it right this time for sure. But
you know what they say though? 3 times the charm.
No, let's not say that. Let's say twice.
I'm getting fucking tired of working here, ese.
Size Gabe, we gotta check the rugs, ese.
I want to hear some rock and roll, man. Some fucking heavy metal.
Heavy metal.
But what show brings us some heavy metal, man?
Godfather TV.
Yeah!